I'm resident of Collinwood for YouTube, Joel Sades, joined by my buddy Daniel Culver at Killenberg. We're here to discuss the Adam arc from Dark Shadows. The Adam arc, in a sense, is Frankenstein's monster in a lot of ways. Dan Curtis was a fan of the classic monsters, if you will. And now, does he create a Victor Frankenstein? In a weird way, he does in the form of actor Addison Powell playing Dr. Eric Lang. But this starts very, very interesting because this also centers around Barnabas Collins. This is post Victoria Winters coming back from 1795. Um, Barnabas is wanting to get the hell out of town, and why shouldn't he at this point? Because I think this right here is what's interesting, Daniel. And here's where I want to get your thoughts, man. Do you, because you've watched the Adam Arc as well, do you think at this point Barnabas knows, man, Angelique's a coming? I gotta go. I gotta get out of here.
I'd say he does.
Goodness. We also meet Jeff Clark, who's played by Roger Davis. Jeff Clark, who we're going to find out that he's the guy who defended Victoria Winters in the past. He under a different name, obviously, um, but he's fighting dual identities. He doesn't know who he really is or where he really came from. Um, Peter Bradford, if you will, in 1796 and stuff. And with Dr. Addison Powell, or sorry, with Dr. Eric Lane, played by Addison Powell, what did you think of him telling Barnabas, I could cure you"? What did you think of that?
I I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I like how they call in the episode there. They call Dr. Julia Hoffman like to come to the hospital that Barnabas has been in an accident, and it's like it's crazy because Dark Shadows up until this point has been mainly supernatural. I mean, but here we're gonna have a little versus. We're gonna have the magic, if you will, versus science, and we're gonna find out who's the winner. There's going to be many winners and losers in this,
Yes.
um, you know. But here's one for you too. Did you notice that, like, with Doctor Lane, Addison Powell's character, you notice how like he's all ready to cure Barnabas, right? Did you notice that when Barnabas tries to tell him about a witch, he's like poo pooing the whole thing.
I actually didn't notice that.
It's weird. I talked about this with Mark Gilman and Patrick McCrae before too. Like that, it's weird how Addison Powell's character is like Barnabas a witch, witchcraft. I don't believe in witchcraft. I'm a scientist, and it's like, dude, you just gave a blood transfusion to a vampire. A vampire. Now, you can make the case that, well, Barnabas wasn't always a vampire, and yeah, that's true. But he's still a vampire when you're trying to cure him of the vampirism disease, if you will. So Addison Powell's Dr. Eric Lane believes in vampires, but not witches. I've always found, out of the whole Adam arc, that's one of the most interesting fascinations I find because at one end, like Lane is not a doubting Thomas when it comes to vampirism, right? But with witchcraft, he's doubting it. Like at first, he's like, "No, I don't believe in that stuff." it's it's really weird.
Yeah, I agree. It actually is pretty weird.
But what did you think here? They're sort of taking from the from Frankenstein's monster, if you will. What are your thoughts on Dark Shadow sort of doing the old school universal horror creatures in their own way?
I actually thought it was pretty interesting, and I actually like how they did it too. Like for those that don't know, like if you read the book Frankenstein, the monster can talk. So this actually kind of combined. Well, yeah, they actually combined, the universal version of Frankenstein's monster with the book version.
Yeah, yeah, they do here. They what I like what they now. There's a lot of side notes to get to. I want to get to what you just said too. Yeah, you're right. Some side notes here. Barnabas, they do dig up dead bodies now. They do use the dead body parts to put um, Adam together. Adam is going to be played by actor Robert Rodan, by the way, who was an athlete in college, a basketball player, um, and an actor. So they cast Robert Rodan, and initially, what the story is going to be is Barnabas is supposed to Barnabas is going to die in every way. And when you hear this, it sort of sounds crazy because it's like there's no way they're after all this time they're going to write Jonathan Frid off the show. But their initial plot is that Barnabas's entire life force is going to be in this new body. Barnabas is going to have a new body in a sense. Now, that's not exactly what happens. That's another thing about the Adam arc too. It sort of changes in it to a degree. At first, it's supposed to be Barnabas is going to be in a whole new body, and that's not what happens. Barnabas's Part of Barnabas's life force goes into Adam, which causes him to live. And before Dr. Eric Lane dies, yes, Lane dies, he makes a recording that if Adam should live, Barnabas will no longer have his vampire affliction. He'll no longer be a vampire. But if Adam does not live or just dies, Barnabas will once again be a vampire. So, what did you think of that, Daniel?
What? I actually thought that was a pretty interesting concept. Like you know, he no longer had to be a vampire.
Yeah.
It just like I said, it was an interesting concept. It's not something you'd expect.
No, this is Dark Shadows really throws you here by at first the whole mad scientist concept is something when I first watched DS I was not expecting. And even going back now, when you rewatch the Adam arc, it's still a very well written arc. I like Dr. Eric Lane's because to me, Dr. Eric Lane was a mad scientist. This dude was crazy. Um,
Yes.
and Addison Powell did a hell of a job. I love one of my favorite scenes. If you saw, I know you had to see, is where Addison Powell, Dr. Eric Lane, he pulls a gun on Barnabas. Like, I'm like, are you gonna shoot your own patient here?
Yeah. You never know.
Right, right. I'm like, I'm like, that right there. Like, if you had any wonder if Dr. Eric Lane was playing with a full deck, right there is sort of your halfway answer. It's like he is, but he isn't.
Yeah.
Now they do recruit some people to. Barnabas convinces Dr. Eric Lane to let Julia help in the experiments. Dr. Julia Hoffman, and as you know, that Dr. Julia Hoffman was giving Barnabas treatments, blood transfusions, if you will, prior to Eric Lane showing up and prior to the 1795 storyline. They sort of bury their feud for the time being and Julia decides to help him, which I like. I mean, there's going to be, trust me, what's coming down the pipe, they're going to need to stick together. But what did you think of that? Did Barnabas even because that's the thing. Lang does not trust anybody other than himself for the longest time. He doesn't even really trust Jeff Clark, which is why he lies to Jeff Clark. And what did you think of that?
You mean like him being paranoid?
Yeah,
Yeah. I guess that makes sense. Considering the stuff he, did. The kind of stuff he did.
yeah, he's having Jeff Clark dig up bodies. Now, I think one of the biggest telling moments too of Barnabas's baby face turn, if you will, is really in this arc too. That because Lang says you can have any face you want on Adam, and he at first he chooses Peter, he chooses Jeff Clark's face because Victoria Winters is in love with Jeff Clark. Jeff Clark is a lucky man. That's all I'll say. But he Barnabas tells Lang no to let him go. He makes a really conscious decision here to go. You know what? I've had enough of all this killing. I'm not that person no more. I don't want to be that person again. I think it's one of the best conscious decisions the writers make here.
Yeah, I agree.
What what did you think of them? Barnabas suggesting to Dr. Hoffman to get Willie out of Wingcliffe Sanitarium to help dig up more body parts. What did you think of that, Daniel?
Um, I um, I guess it makes sense. He Willie's like who was helping him before.
Yeah. What? Here's how I view this idea, and I love the writers for like bringing John Carlin back, and I love his character. This right here is the equivalent of letting Michael Myers out of Smith's Grove, almost. Willie, like if you're wondering if Willie is in sound mind, he really isn't. He is not in a good place mentally, really, when they're letting him out. He's sort of in between a dark, maddened Willie and the Willie he may want to be. Like he doesn't he Barnabas isn't really in control of him because again, Barnabas doesn't have his vampire powers. And that's the thing too. Barnabas is sure as Dr. Lane, oh, I can control Willie. I'm thinking, yeah, how are you gonna do that?
That's true.
I look I gotta give Jonathan Fritz credit. He just like him as Barnabas, him like convincing. It's like when he's talking to Addison Powell's Dr. Eric Lane, I'm going, who are you trying to convince here? Are you trying to convince Dr. Lane or are you trying to convince yourself?
Yeah.
Oh my god. But he's so they let Willie out. By the way, the reason Willie it was in Windcliffe, for those who don't know, Willie was arrested trying to get into the home of Maggie Evans. They thought that Willie Loomis was the one who kidnapped Maggie Evans. And you want to talk about the worst looking frame up job in the history of frame up jobs? Barnabas does it. He sets up Willie to look like the kidnapper. He puts Maggie's ring in Willie's room under a candlestick. And it's like it's horrible. But what's really horrible is when Willie goes to get in, and this again, this is prior to the Adam arc, but I'm bringing this up because it sort of goes with it in a way. Is Willie gets shot a lot here. He gets shot a couple times. You notice what I like, and again, I get it's a fictional show, but this is the funny part about this. The door that Willie's trying to go in, there's glass. Not one bullet touches the glass. All the bullets go into Willie. Ladies,
Oh,
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
that's fine. Didn't that happen because the guy that plays Willie needed dental surgery?
Yeah, that's true. Actually, John Carlin did need dental surgery. He had to leave, um, so they had to write him off the show for a while. Um, so they're like, okay, what are we gonna do? We're gonna shoot Willie. We're gonna plug Willie with bullets. And ladies and gentlemen, I give you the best. If you want a police force to shoot you, the most accurate shots in all of horror history, I give you the Collinsport Police Department.
But do you think they could stop Michael Myers?
I'm glad I'll say this. I think they're for like because the sheriff acts like he's got like 100 men at his disposal at all times. Like when there's a search party, I don't think he's got that many deputies, honestly. But I'll tell you this: I'd give him an A for effort, but they'd all get killed.
Oh yeah, I could definitely see that.
like, like they're good shots. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, when his bullet stopped Michael? So,
Yeah, that's a good
oh my god! But I just think it's funny that not one bullet touches the glass. That is hilarious. It's like because when you think about Barnabas and Angelique, Barnabas fails to kill Angelique, and he's closer to Angelique than what the Collinsport Police Department were to Willie. So I've always found that funny. What did you think of Dr. Eric Lang's laboratory?
I thought it, looked awesome.
Yeah, I like how they had Adam laid out there. When you finally see this big long body, you don't see the face yet. They don't have a face quite yet. And then finally, when they do reveal the face, it's Robert Rodin. Obviously, this is not, they're not putting Jeff Clark's face on a body. It's really interesting that they don't use electricity. They use Barnabas's life force. I think that's what I enjoy. Another thing about this too, that as you pointed out too, that it's really different from the way we get told Frankenstein gets brought to life in the movies.
Yeah, it's true.
And I like how in this too, that once Adam comes to life, they're trying to teach him how to speak. Like Barnabas admits, he tells Adam, I am not the best teacher. Or best parent, I think he says. And he's not that Barnabas himself is not very patient. But he is trying to teach Adam how to speak and stuff. They got Adam in the basement of the old house. What did you think of Robert Rodin's performance as Adam?
I think you did a pretty good job.
Yeah. What's something you were shocked about, like for the whole Adam arc? What's something that shocked you that they really did?
It's actually a good question. But you know what? I'm gonna go with you know, the life force thing, making it so like Barnabas isn't a vampire anymore, but as long as Adam's alive.
Yeah. They put it on a recording too, like that's playing music. And this recording machine gets passed around like it's candy.
Yeah,
um, there's a lot of shocking moments during this arc too. Um, I like how Willie messes up. He's like that Adam, and he says it right in front of Elizabeth.
yeah.
John Carlin's face is like, oh no. um, but here's another one for you. What did you because Adam ends up taking Carolyn and putting her in an abandoned like looking place. What did you think of him in a weird way kidnapping Carolyn?
Um, I, um, I would say like they I think they did a good job with that.
Yeah. I'll tell you what shocks me most about this, because Dark Shadows, up until this point, had built up Widow's Hill as this: if you fall from Widow's Hill, you're dead, right? And
Yes.
rightfully so. um, but Adam, who puts down Carolyn, he's on the run from the cops, and Barnabas is trying to talk to him, but the police are right there, Roger's right there, and Adam just jumps off Widow's Hill. And I'm like, oh shit, did they really just like? I gotta tell you, when I first saw Dark Shadows and I saw this, I'm thinking, are they really gonna kill this character off right here?
Yeah, it did seem that way.
Yeah, I love how they play it though. They got Jonathan Fritz, Barnabas Collins, and Willie Loomis looking at the bottom of they're at the bottom of Widow's Hill, and they're looking for Adam. What did you think of that?
Um, I actually thought that was, interesting because like they looked for him, and obviously he's not there, and they're, you know, obviously usually people would die, but since Adam is Adam, he didn't.
Yeah, he's not your average average man, that's for sure. He I always find it interesting that when Adam's in pain, if you notice too during the Adam arc, when Adam's in pain, Barnabas doesn't feel it. When Barnabas is in pain, Adam feels it. I really have always found that interesting about this art. To explain that again, so when Adam's in pain, Barnabas doesn't feel it at all. This guy has Barnabas's life, part of Barnabas's life force in it. But when Barnabas is in pain, and you see moments too when Barnabas is in pain, Adam will feel it. Like when they bury Barnabas, like he's suffocating. And Adam's like displaying the emotions of someone suffocating. It's really interesting the way the writers did that. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I actually agree. Like it was pretty interesting.
Yeah, for sure. So has many teachers. We have Barnabas. By the way, Willie Loomis is not the best babysitter to hire either. Um, he probably surpasses any worst babysitter in Haddonfield you could hire. Uh, but you know, he because he tries to frame Adam for stealing jewels. He tries to blame everything on Adam, and no, it's not Adam's fault. Um, so with with Adam, he has many teachers. He has Barnabas. He has Third David's professor, Timothy Stokes, and a warlock named Nicholas Blair, played by Humphrey Allen Alstrado. Daniel, my friend, what did you think of Nicholas Blair?
I actually thought he was a pretty interesting character.
Yeah, it's interesting too that it's Victoria Winters who sort of refers to him as a warlock, and that's exactly what he is. He's sort of a warlock. Now we're going to see some things throughout the Adam arc that are some really interesting stuff, because what they do is they roll two arcs into one. We have the Adam arc, but we also have the dream curse that goes on too when Cassandra slash shows up, and then Angelique hops into her body through the portrait, and now Angelique is now Cassandra. So what did you think of the dream curse?
I actually thought that was, pretty interesting too, and like I would definitely say it was well written.
Yeah, for the first time really in Dark Shadows, you see a lot of, I won't say every character's fears, but you see a lot of the character's fears. and what their fears are for the most part. You see Willie Loomis's, you see Mrs. Johnson's. Um, you don't see Carolyn's because her dream's interrupted. That's so by Professor Stokes. You see David's. You see Maggie Evans's. Victoria Winters. For them to sort of play this card and have this dream curse going on, I like it because what it really ultimately does is proves Adam's importance to the story. This wasn't just about, yeah, it's about the creation of Adam, but the reason for Adam's existence is to counteract the magic that Angelique has used over the years and to counteract her spell that she's ultimately going to attempt. The dream curse is a long about spell. And I love the way they write this. I love the way they do this. And I one of my favorite moments too is when when Angelique figures it out, when Cassandra figures out that, hey, if I kill Adam, Barnabas is a vampire. Dude, she gets an axe and she goes up to his room and she's ready to deliver a death blow. And who interrupts her? Nicholas Blair.
Yeah.
The very man who saved her from Reverend Trask. Now it's funny because if you notice during the Adam arc, when Dr. Eric Lane's still alive and Cassandra visits him, she doesn't say I'm Cassandra Collins. She says I'm Cassandra Blair. So that's your first real hint that there's another character coming.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So it's really, you got to catch it, like, because she pays him a visit to do some damage to him, but he has the witch's medallion that was given to him by Barnabas, that was given to him by Professor Stokes, which gets stolen by Jerry Lacey's character in this story, Tony Peterson. So it's really interesting that they do that with Cassandra. They don't say Cassandra Collins; they say Cassandra Blair. What did you think? First of all, what did you think of Laura Parker as Angelique in 1795? And what did you think of her as Cassandra / Angelique in 1968, if you
will? I would say she did a good job as Angelique.
Yeah.
She's an interesting character, and I know Cassandra is the same character, but I kind of liked her better as like Angelique.
Yeah, I think that I get what they're going for with the deception game. Like they don't want her to look like, so they give Laura Parker this horrible looking wig.
Yeah, that's what I'm actually going to bring that up to you. The wig.
I'll help you out, my friend. Yes, we have finally found a wig worse than the wig in Halloween 2, right?
Yep.
I will say though the wig looks bad, Laura Parker just sells her ass off. I mean, as a performer, she just. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was actually just saying I agree with you on that.
Yeah, it's just, she really does a great job of. I love how, as Cassandra, she's standing in front of the portrait and she's sort of like checking out her own hair, like, oh, I could see myself as a blonde. And that's when you sort of see the switch that Angelique jumps into her body, which is really, really cool. I love how Barnabas is going to use, like, before Professor Stokes intervenes on the dream curse, Barnabas decides to use a little black magic, and they take Angelique's portrait. They give it to Sam Evans, and he goes, "I want you to de-age this portrait. I want you to make it as 100 and some odd years old." I'm like, Barnabas, you are a cold, cold man, dude.
Yeah.
And here's the thing too: when Cassandra comes to the door, when Angelique comes to the door, dude, I love the makeup job they do on her face.
Oh yeah, I actually agree. That was done pretty well.
Like that, we've seen. It's weird because we see now. This is not the first time we've seen aged makeup in Dark Shadows. If you go back to when Dr. Hoffman was treating Barnabas, Barnabas insists on the cure being sped up, and that's what causes Barnabas to start to look old. So the first really aging makeup you get is on Jonathan's face, which looks good. But I really like how they do Cassandra's. I feel that one's done a little better because it's more done in the tone of, "Hey, this is your punishment for messing with this dude." But
Yeah.
it's gonna be short lived too. I mean, because she starts snooping around of who they would use. She gets Tony Peterson to help her again, and this is uh this is where Sarah David's character, or not Sarah David's character, sorry, David Ford, his character is going to go blind. They're going to write him off as blind. So, what did you think of Sam Evans being used by Barnabas here?
Um, I think it was well done. You know, it kind of makes sense. You know, for Barnabas to use him, you know, in that way, and and I kind of understand. Sam's point of view too, where he didn't really want to ruin the painting because that looked good.
He's a painter. He doesn't really, but when someone's offering you $1,000,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I'm going to take that money. Um, yeah, but he gets a little more for his trouble. um, I like when Maggie comes home. She's like, "Pop, Pop," and he's like, "Maggie, I can't see." He tells, he goes, "I'll call the doctor." He's like, "No, no, no. I want you to go get Barnabas Collins." I love David Ford's like lines right there because it's like he's ready to. He's like, "Nah, you got some answers to answer for here, dude. You got some questions that need answered."
Yeah.
But it's really, I just love how his passion for go get Barnabas Collins. And Barnabas is like, when he comes there, he's like, I don't want to say he's like, "Oh shucks, gee whiz," like I didn't realize that would happen. Like, really, you didn't realize that Angelique, your mortal enemy here, would track down the painter and blind him.
Yeah.
It's like, I love me some. I love Barnabas, but yeah, buddy. I sort of think he's wondering how much the portrait is in, because he does say about it. He's wondering how much effect the portrait has on her, and once they find that out, I sort of wish they would not have left Sam Evans alone. They would have just watched to see what happened, because you would think they would have stuck around, but they can't because of Adam. So it's really interesting. They make Sam Evans blind, so they're getting desperate too, and so Sarah Davis, Professor Stokes, offers to help. He's tried to talk to Adam too. Adam is sort of getting bad instructions from Nicholas Blair. He tells Barnabas, I want to kill you." He's not, and all because Willie was agitating Adam. Adam tries to choke Willie, and then Barnabas hits Adam with the cane. So that's what sort of causes their friction. It's really interesting. What did you think of Nicholas sort of corrupting Adam here?
I thought that was well written because I could see like someone like Nicholas doing that.
Yeah. Uh, I'll give you a little spoil fun here. This is not going to be the last time you see Humpert Allen Alstrado in Dark Shadow.
Uh,
He'll be back. But yeah. What did you think of the way Nicholas Blair got destroyed?
oh, actually, I actually don't remember what happened. Sorry about that.
It's okay. So for those who don't remember, Nicholas and Angelique are working for the devil. We actually get a trip into hell during the Adam arc. um, and by the way, so you know, Daniel, some people, a religious group complained about that.
Oh, that's
Um,
interesting.
yeah, they complained about them having shooting a scene into hell. I think they took it a little too literally. Um, so we saw Satan. He's all in this black robe. He's got these thick looking glasses. But yeah, the devil. Um, so we don't get too many more trips into hell after the complaint. I think we get one more, but from then on, we get Satan sort of speaking through people. He speaks through Maggie when Nicholas is trying to date Maggie, which is really cool. And what's going on is, at between Adam and the devil, they want this ultimate super army. They want more Adams. So Adam wants a mate. They want to, so they go to create Eve, and they create Eve. And that doesn't turn out so well. And then after that, they go to create another one. They bring Eve back, her skeletal structure, if you will, or they bring some sort of skeletal structure. And this is where Barnabas has had enough. He smashes the machine. Maggie remembers being kidnapped by Barnabas. Barnabas has just had enough of Nicholas. Nicholas runs off, knows he's out of time. He's standing on this hill. I think it's at the top of Widow's Hill. And Satan just devour, burns Nicholas alive. And Barnabas is smiling. He's literally like the Treasure Cat from Alice in Wonderland. He is all too happy to watch Nicholas be destroyed by the devil.
Oh yeah, yeah, that actually was pretty creative. Oh yeah, for those that don't know, like this show has over 1,000 episodes. So
Yeah, it's sort of hard. um, yeah, 1,225 episodes.
I didn't know people complained about the Satan part.
Yeah, it's really silly. Like if you go back and watch it, it's really weird because it's not like it's done. This is not the worst version of hell I've ever seen in my life. Like, you know what I mean? There's been other films, TV shows that have shown hell or shown Satan, and there have been far worse versions. But I get, at that time, Dark Shadows was made during the 60s, which was a completely different time than now.
That's true.
Um, but I think the complaint is just ridiculous. I mean, if I'd again, I'm not saying Dan Curtis didn't fight for it. I'm sure he did. But at this time, you have very high ratings for Dark Shadows. If I'd have been Dan Curtis, I'd be like, we're not changing shit.
Yeah, that's
like,
how to be too.
like but I mean, I get they were gonna protest and stuff, so they limit the hell stuff, which I sort of wonder if we would have got Satan coming up out of hell as a person and using a human body. So that leads me to a question for you, my friend. If in the 60s, if you could have cast anybody as Satan for Dark Shadows, who would you have cast?
That's actually a question. Um, You know what? I'm gonna go with Vincent Price.
Nice. Beautiful. I'm gonna go the other way. I'm gonna go Rod Serling.
Oh yeah, that's a pretty good choice. Actually, I could see that.
Why, Mr. Collins, it's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. See, here's the thing too. Like, I could see Vincent Price playing Satan too.
Yeah, me too.
Oh my god, the original, like, when you go watch a lot of his movies, he's just so good. He's always on. I mean, Vincent Price is. So very, very, very talented actor. Um, do you, when it comes to horror legends, like, do you think Vincent Price is the most underrated, or is he just one of the top three?
Um, I'd say he's probably more at the top.
Yeah, for sure. He's just so good. But the Adam Mark and it comes to it, when they don't, when the dream curse doesn't work because Adam's alive, Cassandra figures it out. She wants him dead. That doesn't happen. Angelique, during the Adam arc, gets turned into a vampire, and this sort of causes a whole other set of problems too, for Nicholas, because she starts to go on her own. So where Nicholas told on Angelique for the devil, Angelique returns the favor. They really did feel like a brother and sister, Angelique and Nicholas. They argued like a brother and sister, didn't they? I mean,
Yeah.
I tell you one of my favorite scenes too, and it's still during the Adam arc, and you have Tom Jennings and Chris Jennings in the same episode. You have double Don Briscoes. It's so fun. Because Tom Jennings is a vampire.
Yeah.
Chris Jennings has showed up in the town here to mourn his brother. Oh my god. And here's the thing, Chris Jennings is asking questions too, which I love. Because you got to watch with questions around Collinsport. It could get you killed. Um, but Chris has no regard, and you're going to find out why later on. Overall, like, when you think about the Frankenstein story, how true did Dark Shadows sort of stick to the story and sort of given their own touch on it too?
Um, I would say, like they did. I would say they stuck. Um, you know, that's actually a good question. Because they obviously made their own changes. Like,
Yeah.
but it's not like in a bad way. Like they. Well, I mean, like, obviously, kind of depends. Like, as you know, like they had the bride, but as Adam's bride actually didn't like him.
Yeah. Eve.
Yeah. But it's kind of weird though, because the book Frankenstein is a little different than the movie. Well, actually, a lot different. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. I think what's interesting too is, well, Eve. Now, Bride of Frankenstein is not a long movie. Okay. Eve's character, the character of Eve, is not around a lot. Like, she's like, I've talked about this before with the actress who plays her. Like, she plays really interesting characters. This will not be the last character she plays on Dark Shadows. Marie Wallace is her name. Marie Wallace plays very interesting characters, from Eve to Crazy Jenny. By the way, that's Quentin's wife. Um,
Oh yeah.
she plays Megan Todd, and I mean, it feels like every time you see Marie Wallace on Dark Shadows, it's like, I want more of this lady. And then it's like, nah, they don't really give you that. um, which is really just interesting. I mean, Dark Shadows, when they cast characters or cast actors or actresses, they give you just enough to leave you wanting more, no matter who it is.
Oh yeah, sure. Oh yeah, with your question, I would say the arc is not very faithful to Frankenstein, but not in a bad way necessarily.
Right, right. I think that the way they like, because the early stuff, like with Dr. Eric Lane and Adam, I think is good. And I think the later stuff, the stuff they add that's sort of their own, with the Barnabas being the vampire and them using his life force. That, because again, you have a lot of stuff going on in the Adam arc too. It's not just Adam, breaking free, learning to speak. Yeah, that's there. And Barnabas somewhat teaching him before that too. Yeah, that's there too. You have, it's funny. My buddy Patrick McRae has always said Dark Shadows had many parents. Well, so did Adam. From Barnabas to Professor Stokes to Nicholas Blair, and all of them were different. And Nicholas taught him bad stuff. Thayer David's character, Professor Stokes, taught him good stuff. Barnabas was trying to teach him some stuff, good stuff. And then what I really love is how Robert Rodin's sort of takes charge of the character, and he sort of has to make his own decision whether to be good or bad. I think at the end of the day, I love how it felt like the writers, and I'm not saying they did this, it just felt like this to me. It felt like the writers really, at the end of the day, toward the end of the arc, they really put Adam in Robert Rodin's hands in every way.
Yeah, I could see that.
Like it's his, Professor Stokes tells him this. He goes, "It's your choice whether you be good or bad. What you do from here on out, once it's all said and done." And I love the conversation between him and Stokes' conversations is the best. Like, no disrespect to Jonathan Fred, his character. I really like how Professor Stokes and Adam interacted with one another. Barnabas and Adam, I mean, at the end of the day, I think they're more to an understanding of, hey, if we never see each other again, that would probably be the best thing.
Yeah.
Like, let's just never see each other again and call that good. Um, and you sort of understand why too. Like, Barnabas has made some decisions with Adam that haven't been the best. The caning is a massive one. Him trying to kill him is another. And Barnabas trying to kill Adam is another. And Adam hasn't made some of the best decisions either, like aligning himself with Nicholas to a degree. Um, what did you think of Adam's many relationships with all these different characters like Barnabas, Professor Stokes, Nicholas Blair? Which what did you think of those?
Actually, think they were well written. I actually would say my favorite would be with, Timothy Stokes, because Timothy actually helped him out.
Yeah, he was trying to work with him, and that's the thing too. Like, Professor Stokes has some of the greatest lines in this too. Like, I like when Barnabas wants the witch's medallion. He wants this medallion that protects him from witchcraft. And Professor Stokes shows up at the old house, and he goes, "Well, do you have the medallion?" And Professor Stokes, oh, he goes, "At first I thought you'd, have, invite me for a cup of sherry." And they're cutting to the chase, and he goes, "I'll show you the medallion if you show me the witch." Like, oh shit. Because this, no, up until this point, even Julia to a degree. Everybody has been like, "Oh yes, Barnabas, sure, Barnabas, we'll do this for you, Barnabas." But not Professor Stokes. Not at least not like right. He doesn't like just hand it over. He's asking questions like, why do you want this? What do you want it for? What do you really want it for? And I love it. It's so criminally good. And I love his confront. My favorite scene, obviously, is Professor Stokes' confrontation with Angelique in the Dream Curse. I mean, it's so he says what he'll do. He says he'll make the person who summons him answer who they are. He'll open the door. He'll say the riddle, and he does all that. And he confronts Angelique, and even calls her Cassandra. I mean, it's Timothy Stokes steals in many ways. Sarah David steals the Adam arc in every way.
Yeah, I'd say that's true.
What did you think of let's see what did you think of Addison Powell's Eric Lane, his portrayal as Dr. Eric Lane?
I would say he did a good job.
Yeah. If he like they cast, let's see, we know they cast Robert. So I really like Robert Rodin's performance. I tell you though too, like if they did Frankenstein again, I tell you who I'd love to see as Frankenstein is either A. Kane Hodder
There you go.
or who is it? B, the guy who played Jason in the remake, Mears. Oh god. Who, if they did Frankenstein now, who would you like to see, Danny?
I would get Kane.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. For those that don't know, I mean Kane the wrestler.
Yeah. Yeah, he'd be good too.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if he can do it now though, because he's a mayor now.
Who'd be again too, because you gotta go like hideous looking too. For a mayor, he still looks ugly.
Oh yeah, sure.
Oh shit. Hey, I don't have to live in Tennessee, so
That's true. Yeah, for those that don't, the ugly part is actually important if you go by the book, because an important plot point is, the monster is, they're frightened by him because he's a monster, and then he sees himself in the mirror and realizes what he looks like.
yeah. Like Adam has scars in the surgery. Like the biggest scars he gets is post Widow's Hill, like after surviving the Widow's Hill jump. He looks really messed up there. Um and just really sort of even more terrifying, but you also sort of feel sorry for him when he jumps because he's so hurt. Um which again is interesting. I think like I love what Robert Rodan does with the character. I love how the writers write him. They make the character. It's sort of Barnabas in reverse in a way. He's going through everything in the way Barnabas did, but he's going through it a lot faster because again, this is not going to be a long arc. That's number one. Number two, it's Robert Rodan's not going to stick around for the character, and they're not going to have the character on for they'll have the character on for a long time, for a long while, but not that long. It's a very short-lived arc. But and Dark Shadows does this too, and it still won't be the only time they do it. They have two arcs going on at once. You have the Adam arc and you have the Dream Curse arc, but those arcs connect with one another.
Yeah, it's true.
So trying to think if there's anything else I want to ask you. Oh, what did you think of Adam having a crush on Carolyn?
I could see that.
Yeah,
Like it makes sense.
yeah, Carolyn. Carolyn, who almost married Buzz.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, that would have been interesting too. If that wedding would have happened. I'm trying to think if I have any more questions for you. I don't think I do. Is there anything you want to add about the Atom arc?
I'm not about the Adam arc, but there's actually an interesting fact about the Bride of Frankenstein. Many people might not know that her wig was actually red.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I actually saw a picture of it recently. Like I was surprised by that too, because see, for those that don't know, the movie's in black and white, so everyone assumed it was black.
I wonder if Dan Curtis had knew that, and that's why he cast a redhead in Marie Wallace.
Oh yeah, I never thought about that. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, Marie Wallace, her hair is red as Eve. So I sort of wonder if Dan Curtis knew that was floating around someplace, or he just knew that. Because again, Dan Curtis is a director, a Hollywood director. By the way, during the casting of Barnabas, he was in France, he was in Europe, filming Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, his first movie. So I think he probably would have found out about like the Bride of Frankenstein thing for sure, or knew about it. So him casting Marie Wallace is no shock to me. God. But yeah, I mean that's when you said that to me before, and you saying that now, that just confirms that Dan Curtis knew exactly what he was doing when he cast these characters, some of these characters.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh my god. But yeah, really, really, really good stuff. Um, do you ever think we'll see another Frankenstein movie?
Honestly, probably at some point because it's such a popular story, and it's for those that don't know, it's in public domain, so really any studio could make one if they wanted to.
Yeah, yeah, they could. um, I sort of hope what would be cool is like if they get the new Dark Shadow series up and running after this whole writer strike thing is over, hopefully. That I hope the Dan Curtis estate buys the rights to Frankenstein. That
Oh
would
yeah,
be, yeah, that would be cool.
oh yeah. For those that don't know, like, and I actually just found recently, unfortunately, Crystal Lake has been the production of Crystal Lake has been halted as a result of that strike.
Yeah, the writer strike is affecting a lot of stuff going on. Do
Yeah,
you
that's
think, it'll come to an end soon?
um I'm not sure. That's actually a good question. Like,
Yeah.
you think it will?
I'll say this. I'll give it a timeline. Because the fall's coming up here soon. Um, if it's not, if the writer strike is not done by late fall, we're in some serious trouble.
That's true. Yeah, like I'm actually not sure because they should get paid like what they want to. Well, you know how that goes.
Yeah, I don't. No offense to any machine, I don't want a machine writing a script.
Oh yeah,
No,
I don't either. I think that's one of the things they're fighting for. Like they don't want to be replaced by AI.
yeah, I don't want them to be replaced by AI either. I just no, God damn it, no.
Yeah, and I'm gonna state this now for those that don't know. I write stories too. I will never use AI to help me write stories. It'll always be me.
Yeah, it's that's the thing too. It's like you have all these talented writers out there, and it's crazy the fact you want to use a machine. You know what I mean? Like them wanting to use a machine is a slap in the face to people who write.
That's true. And for those that don't know, this is not as unrealistic as people might think. Like, South Park made an episode about that one app that Right. So here's the thing: they used that very app to help write the episode.
Yeah, yeah. God, it's crazy. I hope it gets resolved sooner than late fall, but I don't know, man. Hopefully they'll get it figured out and they'll get it resolved, and people will be back to work writing, so we can have some awesome TV shows. Um, but yeah, it's crazy. Is there anything you want to add before we go?
Oh yeah, I don't know if you and I don't know if you know there's an actor strike too.
Yeah, I heard that was everybody's striking. God damn it!
I guess I could be wrong, but I guess that's something to do with streaming rights.
Yeah, well, here's the thing too. Like, there's so many. My question with that is because there was an advertisement I saw on TV where Chris Hemsworth was coming out the elevator and Arnold Schwarzenegger was in it, and there was an advertisement for Netflix. Here's my question: are these actors under contract to said streaming service or no?
I'm not sure either. That's actually a question.
Like, okay, like for example, was Chris Hemsworth under contract exclusively to Netflix? I wouldn't think he is because he does he does the Avengers and shit for Disney, for Marvel Studios. But it's like, how does like a contract work with a streaming service and actors exactly? Like, I could see it being like a television studio where they're under contract to a television studio or a movie studio. But how does it work with a streaming service? Because a streaming service can pick up literally anything at once. Like, if something's out there that can be picked up that no one else, or even if another, let's say, what's a show on TV right now that's on cable? Um, let's say Dark Winds, a show I watch. Let's say AMC were to drop that show. I hope they don't, but let's say they do. Well, here's the thing about that. Well, Netflix or another streaming service could pick that show up if they wanted to.
Oh, that's
So, like, that's what I mean. Like, okay, how does going from, say, an AMC, which is a cable, on cable, to work to as opposed to working for a streaming service? What's the difference is what I'm asking.
oh, that's a good question.
So, I mean, I don't know if anybody out there knows that question, like to answer that. Please either let me know or let Daniel know.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. So,
And as you know, and I don't know how often this happens, but shows can actually change streaming services. For those that don't know, Cobra Kai was originally a YouTube Red show.
yep,
Yeah, and then actually, I think YouTube Red was going to cancel it, and then Netflix picked it up.
yep. That's the thing. It was on YouTube. Then Netflix picks up because they were gonna. That's what I mean. Like, it's great that we have streaming services, but as I said too, don't put all your money in streaming services because you want to have physical media as well.
That's true.
Um, you know, it's like this. I own the westerns that people say they want to see on stream, and I just tell people, like, go buy the DVD. That's your best bet. Like, because if you wait for something to be on stream, you might be waiting a while.
Oh yeah, that's true. And actually, for those that don't know, you can actually get all 5 seasons of Cobra Kai on DVD. For some reason, only DVD, but still,
Yeah. What's something you're looking forward to picking up on DVD?
Oh, that's actually a good question. I'm not sure at the moment, but yeah, I usually do pick up some stuff. Like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna say maybe Cobra Kai season 5, but I've already seen it because because it's on Netflix.
Yeah. I watched a movie that was recommended to me. It's on Tubi. I'm looking forward to picking this one up. The Ninth Configuration. It's really good.
Oh, oh yeah. Um, I gotta think though. Like, yeah, because yeah, I actually prefer like, I actually prefer physical meat too.
Yeah. Now, if you're looking for like, I'll give you three, like the Angel of Death trilogy for westerns.
Oh yeah.
Hannum High, Pell Rider, and High Plains Drifter, which I refer to that as the Angel of Death trilogy for Clint Eastwood.
Oh yeah.
Pell Rider is like pretty because he's a ghost. Clint Eastwood confirmed this in an interview years ago. He's like he's a ghost.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the preacher is a ghost. Who kills people who tries to kill other people.
Oh yeah.
So crazy stuff. High Plains Drifter is I always feel though I prefer Pale Rider, High Plains Drifter is a lot darker.
Oh yeah.
Like
Oh, that's pretty.
that's if you've ever checked it out, that's a dark movie. But yeah, the Adam Arc is definitely worth checking out. You can if you don't own Dark Shadows, if you don't own the individual sets or the Coffin box set, like I do, you could check Dark Shadows out on Tubi, the entire series. If you just want to start at the Barnabas Collins arc, I think it's still on Peacock, if I'm not mistaken. So there's that. Daniel, is there anything you want to add before we go, dude?
I think I think of.
Okay. So, link to Daniel Culver's channel is going to be in the description box. Thank you, my friend, for covering the Adam arc with me. And have a good day, dude.
If you too. And thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Bye.